episode 93. 90.
93.
My great grandfather lived to be 96. My other
96.
grandfather lived to be 95. I want
Wow.
this podcast to exceed their age.
We're on path. Hang on, don't get too crazy. We're getting there little by little, but we got a shot at it.
We should get there. So anyway, this is our trade deadline show. The trade deadline just happened an hour and a half ago. There were still a few that trickled in after the deadline because you can make the trade right at 6 or 5 o'clock Central Time, and then for them to process everything, sometimes it takes about an hour. So I am as up to date as possible. There may be one or two that still hasn't been processed yet, but I think we're pretty good on those. But I do want to ask you to like us on Facebook. I'm asking as nicely as I can. Like us on Facebook, please. You can contact us through one card, one cup, one beer at gmail.com. Those of you who are watching the YouTube channel, please subscribe to our channel. So as soon as we drop new content, you will be notified because you're our favorite person. If you want to be a guest on a panel, if you have an interesting baseball story, if you're an expert in some sort of baseball related topic, if you think, hey man, I'm just funny and I'd make a great guest, drop us an email, send us a DM, leave us a comment or something. Say, hey, I want to be on your show because we want you on our show. So, JJ, how's your week been?
Oh, Cardinals been a rough week. We had some highs at the beginning of the week and then it's kind of fallen apart. But we got some trades. I hope you're happy with your team's trades. I'm happy with our team's trades. I don't think we did anything real earth-shattering, but that was one of the busiest trading deadlines I remember in a long time. Everybody was involved, it seems like, in one way or another.
Yeah, it was pretty busy. I was surprised at who got traded from the Cubs, and I was surprised who wasn't traded. And when we talk our opening chat, we'll talk about the trades, but I'll save the Cardinal and Cub trades for when we do the Cardinal and Cub segments. Is that
Sounds good.
weird, everybody? I'm just trying to be fair.
We're teasing you. Just
I'm
a little tease right there.
JJ. What do you think of when you see a green bottle? There's only
Green.
two beers I think of.
Oh, I'm not a beer aficionado. When I see green, I think Mountain Dew. That's what I think. But I'm not sure about on the beer side of things.
Doesn't Mountain Dew now make some kind of Mountain Dew with like a?
There's a zero, no calories.
No, I'm
And
talking about alcohol thing.
oh yeah, they have a hard Mountain Dew. I don't even know
Or
what the heck. I'd be running around in traffic if I had that thing. So I better just stick to the good stuff.
I think of two beers. I think of Rolling Rock and I think of Heineken.
Oh,
There's a third
Heineken.
beer I also think of, Tsingtao, which is a Chinese beer, which is one that I will get around to one day.
Oh,
My favorites back when I was a beer drinker, but we're not going with Rolling Rock. We're going with
all right.
Heineken Lot Light.
Oh, yeah.
Light.
Hey, hey.
Come to think of it, I'll have a Heineken. Yeah. Ah. Oh, don't tell me this is not a screw off cap. Let me see if I got an opener. I should be careful when I stick my hand in this area. I have a little tray here because the other day a brown recluse was in there. So
Oh, be careful.
yeah, well we
There
have
you go.
the house is 1,000,000 years old. We're right by a railroad track, and so yeah, we have brown recluse issues. So we're gonna edit this part out because I'm gonna go find something to open this with. I had to run all the way upstairs. I've got like a million tools down here. Nothing to open this with though. I've got tools that are 100 years old in here. You'd think I'd find some. This used to be my wife's grandparents' house. Her grandfather was a beer drinker.
Okay, and no
It was
openers.
all pull tab stacks.
Oh yes, the old pull tabs. Yeah,
I got my
I didn't
Heineken.
even know they had pop off tops anymore like that. I didn't know.
I, but I mean, Heineken is a foreign beer. Maybe they haven't got the news yet that this is Heineken Light. And let me just go over the information about Heineken here. Uh, Gerald Adrian Heineken was born in Amsterdam to an Amsterdam merchant family in 1841. In 1864, he buys a brewery, De Hulberg, known as the Haystack, that is the translation in Amsterdam, and immediately turns his focus towards brewing uncompromised premium lager beer. He embraces the latest brewing innovations and becomes the first brewer on the planet. Which planet? This planet. To introduce a quality control lab. He also did a lot for the city of Amsterdam, or I should say Amsterdam, so we can keep our PG-13
Yes,
deal
for the
here.
kids out there.
Yeah. In 1873, Heineken started his small family brewery in the city center of Amsterdam, a city bustling with life and energy and marijuana. Even then, the brewery grew as fast as Amsterdam did, and Gerald's decision to the quality turned into an instant success. He did this without losing sight of what mattered most, remaining the family-owned brewery who put the purity and excellence in beer first. The rest, as they say, is history. With just 90 calories, Heineken Light is brewed with Cascade hops in their signature Heineken A yeast. No B yeast, no C yeast. This is A yeast for the crisp, refreshing flavor, subtle bitterness, and clean finish. And I've got my big red Camel X
Oh
mug.
yeah, there we go. Ah, well, no, no, yes, up, thumb down. Eh.
It's drinkable. I'm going to give it a 2.
Oh, that's disappointing. I always heard, well, I there was a girl I used to know. We'd load up the back seat with a big cooler of half Mountain Dew, half Heineken, and that was our day. We drive around and have a few.
It was
But
really hot in the 90s. It was like a trendy beer. A lot of
oh,
these beers you'll notice had like this trendy period. So I don't think Heineken is nearly as popular as it was 20 years ago, but
I see.
it's
Is it high dollar? High dollar beer?
uh no well I don't know. I I discovered Deerbergs has bottles, and if you get one of their little 6 pack of bottle things, you can mix and match what you want. It's $2 a beer. So
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty cool that you could do that. I didn't know that.
yep. Well, enough about beer. What's going on in fantasy baseball?
Oh, fantasy baseball. Vince, we only have 5 weeks left. That the season has slowly, I mean, it's like life. It started in April, and next thing you know, we're 4 months in and 2 months to go. And as far as our regular season in our fantasy league, we have 5 weeks to go. There's been a little bit moving around, a little separation from the big guys and the little guys. But over in the American League, the Royals are hanging on to first place, 58-49. Yes, that's old Brody Jackson talking smack to everybody out there. And in second place, Ray Hartman hanging tough, a game and a half back with the Red Sox. So that's going to be interesting. And of course, with all these trades at the trade deadline, this is going to affect our teams too. So this will be interesting to see what happens. The Seattle Mariners, I know they've been beefing up on their hitting a little bit. That is Andrew Gieselman. He's 2.5 back. And then that's where we get a little separation. Tony Pruno and the Detroit Tigers, fourth place, 6.5 back. You got Candy Barks, the Anaheim Angels, 11.5 back with only 5 to go. So they got to really pick it up. And in last place, American League, holding down the fort for like, I don't know, 16 weeks in a row, Dan Rutledge, 27-82, 32 games back. Not mathematically eliminated yet, but it's not looking too good for the old White Sox. So that's it for the American League. Over in the National League, the Padres have taken over the top spot as the Cardinals have struggled. So that's Robbie Spear, who always enters all of our contests and a big time watcher. I'm not pulling for anyone. I'm impartial in this, but Robbie Spears is a good guy. And the San Diego Padres are in first place, and they're 2 games over the Cardinals and the Pirates, which is Kevin Lee and Dennis Rose, which are both 2 games back. So we've got a 3 game battle over there in the National League. And then the Cubs have slipped down to 6 out, which is Larry Wildy. The Nationals have slipped a little bit too, which is Tom Majay, 7.5 back. And then holding down last place almost all year over in the National League is the Colorado Rockies, and that's Brandon Schmidt, and they're 18.5 back. Not as bad as the White Sox, but last place nonetheless. So that's it for our fantasy league with 5 weeks to go. We'll find out who's going to be in our first World Series here
All
real
right.
soon.
And I mean, everybody's charged except for those that do not have a shot.
That's right.
Why even bother? You know, I didn't pick this; it just kind of got shoved at me. So we're gonna go over the trades of name. I guess I'll put it that way because there was probably about, I don't know, 15 more trades than we're going to talk about, but a lot of them are people that are just minor, and some of them, a lot of them are just minor leaguers. But this week, I'll just go over the trades that happened this week, not the whole season. The Marlins traded left-handed pitcher AJ Puck to the Diamondbacks for third baseman Devison De Los Santos and shortstop Andrew Pintar. Marlins were very active trading people away.
Yes.
The Devil Rays, this kind of surprised me. They traded right-handed pitcher Zach Eflin, who's been pretty good for them, to the Orioles for right-handed pitcher Jackson Baumeister, outfielder Matthew Etzel, and outfielder Mac Hovath. First of all, the Orioles needed some pitching, and they got it. What do you like about that trade? I mean, I'm sure you don't know who Mac Horvath is. Neither do I. Probably will never hear of him again. But what do you think about Zach Eflin being added to that Orioles team?
Well, I think the Orioles have jumped ahead. They got you never know how long the window's going to be open for an opportunity. Sometimes people say, like Toronto Blue Jays, oh, they got 5 years of dominance, maybe a couple of world championships in there, and it never happened. Sometimes they didn't even make the playoffs. And the Orioles have a shot this year, and I think this is great because they got Corbin Burns, they've had some injuries, and they've got Rodriguez, Grayson Rodriguez, I believe, and another guy in there that's good. But this is like a good number 2 that they can throw at somebody. And I think they're very serious this year. And they had loaded minor leagues. So we really don't know for a couple of 3 years what they gave up. But I think they're going for it, Vince. And the only thing I may be talking a little early here on this, they made so many moves. Sometimes part of your winning culture is your chemistry. They made so many moves. They've got 7 new guys on this roster. And although they're named guys and they're proven through a lot of veterans here, I don't know if they're going to. Sometimes it doesn't gel. So the Orioles may have made themselves the number 1 team in the American League right now, but I like to see what happens because sometimes it just doesn't work on paper. It doesn't work out that way when you actually play the game. So, but I like this pitching move. The original question was, what do you think of Eflin in there? I think he's going to be a great number 2 for Burns, and Burns has still got a shot at being a free agent at the end of the year. So he'll be good for them in the upcoming years too. But man, the Orioles are going to be a tough customer in the playoffs.
Yeah, I like the move. Baltimore last year when they got bounced by Texas, realized we've got a great team for the long haul. We just don't have a couple of studs to pitch in the playoffs, and now that has been addressed. The Rays also traded Randy Arozarena to the Mariners, who desperately needed uh, hitting for Brody Hopkins, Aiden Smith, and a player to be named later. Um, I like the trade. The Rays who are 500, but that's what they do. They have no qualms about trading someone who's approaching free agency. And I hate that Rosarina is going to such a big ballpark. But gosh, Seattle needed something. And when he's on, he can hit the ball out of anywhere.
They're going to fall in love with him up there too. I
Yep.
I, I kind of thought he was the face of the Tampa Bay team, but like you said, Vince, it's a business, and they're not afraid to move on. And I hope they got some good prospects there. We'll see again here in a couple of years. But Rosarina in Seattle with Rodriguez out there, and both of them finding their way. That place will fall in love with him up there. So good for him and Seattle there.
The Dodgers traded James Paxton to the Red Sox for shortstop Moises Bolivar. So the Red Sox bolsters their pitching staff. So they're obviously thinking they're going to be able to uh, stay in and possibly get a playoff spot, which is good. Um, the Mariners traded right-handed pitcher Ryan Stanek to the Mets for outfielder Ryland Thomas. Um, this trade I liked. The Orioles traded right fielder Austin Hayes to the Phillies for right-handed pitcher Sir Anthony Dominguez and center fielder Christian Pache. Excuse me. I think this was a win-win for both teams.
I do too.
Um, Baltimore, with that plethora of offensive players, they can afford to trade Austin Hayes. He's not having a great year, but the Phillies, they need some help out there with their injuries. And I've always loved Sir Anthony Dominguez, um, a great pitcher and one of those seventh, eighth inning guys. And he can't close if you need him, who's just going to take the ball and do his best every time he goes out there. Blue Jays trade catcher Danny Jansen to the Red Sox for Cutter Coffee, Edison Polano, and right-handed pitcher Gilberto Batista. And I wouldn't have included this trade, but I really wanted the Cubs to go after Danny Jansen. Um, he's their backup catcher, but he would start on most other teams.
You're right.
Way our catching has looked this year. I would have liked to have seen him with the Cubs, but I mean, suddenly Amaya is hot. Um, so perhaps the Cubs feel like, well, we'll just stand pat here. Um, Rockies traded right-handed pitcher Nick Mears to the Brewers for right-handed pitcher Bradley Blaylock and right-handed pitcher Yulonia Parada. That's hard to pronounce. Um, but obviously, the Brewers are trying to load up a little bit on the pitching. It's really strange because the Brewers, usually been like this team that all they are is pitching, and now they're quite a good offensive team, and the pitching is not bad, but they're going to add some pitching here to help them out. What did you think of that trade with the Brewers getting
Yeah,
done?
the Brewers. I honestly, Vince, I don't know how they've done it this year. A great, maybe sheer luck, good coaching, minor league guys that are having their best years ever. But they've had so many injuries, and they've had such good pitching, and I think that's great. Good for Milwaukee going up and buffering up their pitching staff. I think it's a good move for them. But like you said, they've always been pitching heavy, hitting light, and this year it's kind of been the opposite. So good for them. Whoever comes out of the Central Division, I'm pulling for. I still think the Cubs can make it. We've all had our ups and downs, and everybody's been making moves. I'm not counting anybody out right now, and everybody seemed to went out and address some of their, whatever excesses they've had, and move some players and address their weaknesses. So, man, this is going to be good. But good for Milwaukee picking up these pitchers.
This was a big one. The Marlins again traded, and they traded their center fielder Jazz Chisholm Jr. to the Yankees for catcher Augustine Ramirez, second baseman Jared Serna, and shortstop Abraham Ramirez. So the Yankees just get better.
Yes.
And I don't know how they're going to configure that outfield. Judge is center. Soto's been playing right. Chisholm's a center fielder, so I don't know.
He was a second baseman for a long time. Maybe they'll move him back to second base. Because I don't see how he fits in that outfield either. And they've got this kid coming, and they call him the Martian because everything he does is out of this world. And I can't think of his name, but they've got this 19, 20-year-old kid. Yeah. And he's gonna with that outfield they got, I don't know how Jazz Chisholm will make his way in there, but he'd be a wonderful with his speed and everything. I just don't know how he's going to fit in with the team, especially long term. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. And I hope the Marlins seems like they're on a selling off their players. So this just seems like Florida doing a Florida thing where they're
Yeah.
just recycling a new roster in and see what happens next time around, I guess.
Now, I like this trade. The Mets traded right-handed pitcher Tyler Stewart, to the Nationals for left fielder Jesse Winker. So obviously the Nationals, even though they're technically in it by the moves they've made, they're not thinking they're ready. Getting rid of a veteran like Winker, and the Mets picking him up. And he's a streaky hitter when he's hot. He can really carry a team. When he's not, he's just a hole in the lineup. So for the sake of our Met fans, Mark and Mark, hopefully he gets hot for them. The Rays traded right-handed pitcher Jason Adam to the Padres for right-handed pitcher Dylan Lesko, outfielder Homer Bush Jr., and catcher J.D. Gonzalez. And you're probably thinking, why the heck did I mention that? Because Homer Bush Jr.'s father, Homer Bush, went to high school at East St. Louis High School. And I actually
Oh,
watched Homer Bush play football when he was in high school. So I've always kind of kept track of his career. Went to the Yankees, won a few World Series as a fifth outfielder, pinch hitter, pinch runner type guy. And then I think he had a stint with the Jays too. Um, but his son, Homer Bush Jr., is part of this deal. So pretty cool.
Vince, I knew I heard that name somewhere, but I didn't know where. And that was the only name in that thing that really, lit up for me.
Yeah.
So thank you for filling me in on that. I forgot all about his dad.
Carson Kelly went to get a new address again. He goes from the Tigers to the Rangers for catcher Liam Hicks and right-handed pitcher Tyler Owens. It's good that the Cardinals didn't invest in him because he seems to be a career backup catcher, um,
Yeah,
which is fine, but that's not what he was projected to be. He was
that's
projected
right.
much better. And so when the Cardinals traded him, perhaps they knew something that the rest of the league didn't, that we overhype our prospects and nobody gets it. So
Well, you know what happened too is we had other guys coming up behind him. And I think he was a victim of Yadier staying a little longer than they thought he would. And so he was kind of at that point. You can't keep him down to minors because other guys are moving up. And so he
yeah.
went ahead and moved him. And I wish him all the luck. Uh, solid catcher, just a solid catcher. Probably be a backup down in Texas.
Now, what bump did they get for him? I mean, they had to have gotten a bump for him.
Oh, yeah. Oh, some kid, Goldschmidt. Is that the name? We got him in that deal?
Or something. The Nationals,
Mine for president.
Traded what I think is one of their best players, former Cardinal center fielder Lane Thomas, to the Guardians for left-handed pitcher Alex Chumley, shortstop Rafael Ramirez Jr., and shortstop Jose Tina. So Lane Thomas is on the move and going to be playing on the playoffs. So that's
And
why I
he was
said,
having his best year. This year was
Washington.
his best year, I think.
Washington seems to have entered this. We're a year away, so let's get rid of some parts that we can replace. And Washington does have a pretty strong minor league system, being they traded Juan Soto to the Padres and got the entire Padres minor league system.
That
So
is true. Three of those guys out of the six are up on the roster right now playing and doing okay, doing fine.
Blue Jays traded Justin Turner, so the Blue Jays have thrown in the white towel, and Justin Turner in cash to Seattle for outfielder RJ Schreck. So Seattle once again gets another bat. They're trying to get an off
Yeah.
there. And I really like this trade for the Royals. The Rangers traded Michael Lorenzen to Kansas City, right-handed pitcher, for left-handed pitcher Walter Pennington. Lorenzen has started. He's relieved. He's also been an outfielder. He's very talented. He throws hard. I think he was an all-star last year.
Seems
Um,
like it.
and I think he's going to be a good addition to that Kansas City um, starting staff. Uh, the Mariners also traded third baseman Ty France, who's been a very disappointing player this year, to Cincinnati for catcher Andrew Salcuda. So for a catcher named Andrew. So um, the Ty France years in Seattle are over. I think he only had 8 home runs, sitting like
I know. I don't know what happened this year.
yeah, yeah. The Blue Jays traded left-handed pitcher Yushi Kikuchi to the Astros for right-handed pitcher Jake Bloss, outfielder Joy LaPerfido, and second baseman Will Wagner. And Kikuchi has been a very good pitcher who hasn't gotten the results for the Blue Jays. And I am so excited to see what he does when he gets to Houston, who seem to know what to do with pitchers.
They sure do.
So uh, he's kind of buried in obscurity um, in Toronto, and I hope that he's able to blossom
I
here.
think he's a free agent next year too, or he's not signed for next year, and this could be a big platform for him to get that contract he wants. And Houston seems to be rounding their wagons for one more run because they've been so successful, but their players are getting a little older and some of them haven't worked out. Yeah, I know the Abreu move at first base. So let's see what happens. That's going to be fun. Them getting in there and causing some chaos because they're starting to get on a hot streak and looking pretty good right now.
Now the Giants have thrown in the towel. They trade Jorge Soler and Luke Jackson, right-handed pitcher, to Atlanta for Tyler Matzik, third baseman Saban Cabellos, and Matzik is a left-handed pitcher. So it's deja vu all over again, as Yogi would say, for the um, Braves, who traded for Soler a few years ago, and he became the World Series MVP.
And then they traded for him because Acuna went down. Then Acuna's down and this year again, they got Solar. So you never know. Yeah, I hate that for the Giants. It seems like they go after a big free agent every year, and at the last minute, Korea with not passing the physical. I think there were some other players they really wanted. Yamamoto was a player they really went after, and yeah,
Yeah.
and they just always finish the second or third for these guys, and then they got to like rustle around and get the rest of the team together. So I'm always kind of I love the Giant organization, but it just hasn't went well for them the last few years. Plus, they're in a tough division. The
Yeah.
Dodgers are always overshadowing them.
To go with that white flag of getting rid of Jorge Soler, they also traded right-handed pitcher Alex Cobb to the Guardians, and the Guardians picked up a starting pitcher, and the Guardians gave up left-handed pitcher Jacob Bresnahan. And the Reds traded right-handed pitcher Frankie Montas, which tells me that they are definitely not looking to make a playoff run. Um, and they traded them in division to the Brewers, which really sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Reds.
They got a haul. They got right-handed pitcher Jacob Junis, outfielder Joey Weimer, and some cash.
Oh, I
So
like Weimer. Weimer's a good ball player too.
uh, these
It's
major league players that they got for Montez. So Cincinnati, this isn't like it's we're going for prospects. We're trying to rebuild. This is things that they realize that Montez is not going to be a long-term solution in their staff. So the Brewers needing pitching gave up a lot to get him. My friend, like he knows who I am, but Uh, Tigers traded left-handed pitcher Andrew Chafin, one of my favorite Cubs of all time, to the Texas Rangers for right-handed pitcher Joseph Montevallo and right-handed pitcher Chase Lee. So Andrew Chafin going to the Rangers, very good left-handed pitcher, sixth, seventh, eighth inning guy. Always liked him. He's really into muscle cars. What I like about him is he'll tell you, I mean, for many interviews, not a baseball fan, didn't grow up liking the sport, but hey, God bless me with the left arm that throws the ball. That's what I do, but I'd rather be working on my cars. So,
I'll be darned.
uh, the Blue Jays also traded third baseman Isaiah Kiner Falefa and cash to Pittsburgh for second baseman Charles McAdoo. So the Pirates are actually trying to better themselves. The Marlins traded right-handed pitcher Brian De La Cruz to the Pirates for a right-handed pitcher Jun Seok Shim and third baseman Garrett Forrester. So the Pirates also traded with the Mets. They got left-handed pitcher Josh Walker, and they got rid of left-handed pitcher Nicholas Carino. So back to the Marlins. These are the most recent trades. That's why things are starting to just kind of jump around a bit. They traded left-handed pitcher Trevor Rogers to the Orioles for second baseman Connor Norby and center fielder Kyle Stowers. So the Orioles picked up another pitcher and Trevor Rogers, who has started and also been a bullpen piece. He's very valuable. Boy, that rookie year, Trevor Rogers, for
Yeah.
like going into August, you thought that guy may be rookie of the year. Um, this is a trade that I like, and Cardinal fans will be interested in this. The White Sox traded shortstop Paul DeYoung, who is not hitting for average, but he's
Your power.
home runs, so he's putting the ball out of the ballpark. The Royals picked him up for right-handed pitcher Jared Rosado. So the Royals are picking up these veterans, and they're going to make a run, and I'm very happy about that.
Me
And
too. Me too. Go Royals.
yeah, Marlins made another trade towards the deadline. They traded Josh Bell, first baseman, to the Diamondbacks for a player to be named later. The Diamondbacks are also adding, so they're making their move. The Tigers traded left fielder Mark Hanna to the Giants for right-handed pitcher Eric Silva, which makes absolutely no sense to me, except for maybe San Francisco thinks now that we got rid of Soler, we really don't have anything there. Mark Hanna, we'll get him here and let him finish out the year. And these last two trades happened right before I got online. The Tigers traded, or the Dodgers get Jack Flaherty from the Tigers. They also got Kevin Kiermaier from the Blue Jays. Now, I've got a question mark because these hadn't been verified yet, but
Oh, okay.
out there, so they're probably verified by now. And the Padres got left-handed pitcher Tanner Scott from the Marlins. So those are the trades of note. It was a very busy day for the trade deadline, and I'm spent. Go ahead and talk.
Well, my big takeaway from this whole trading deadline thing, Vince, is all of us teams in the middle made little moves trying to make ourselves better, but the big guys went out and made more impact moves. I mean, the Dodgers getting Flaherty and some of the moves they made, and Kiermaier, he's all world. I think this might be his last year. I thought I heard he was going to retire after this year, and he's a defensive gem out there in center field. You got the Phillies making moves, and these teams were already built to go all the way. Atlanta, a lot of injuries, and they're trying to plug some holes there. Good luck to them. I don't feel they're so good. I don't feel too sorry for them. But these three teams are just like, even San Diego is like really stacked the deck too. So it's just going to be tough for the Milwaukee's and the Cardinals and all of us Central guys and these other teams that are out there just battling for those wild card spots. It's going to be tough. And then over in the American League, my gosh, it looks like the bench of the Yankees they could beat the White Sox, but they are stacked. That whole team is stacked, and they went out and even got better. The Red Sox, I admire them for going out and getting it done. The Orioles, this is it. They're going for it. And I tell you what, that's going to be fun watching them. I hope they get that bye in the first round, and they get the home games, and that's going to be a lot of fun watching the Orioles this year. Of course, you got to stay healthy. All these teams have to stay healthy, but even Cleveland went out and got more pitching, and I'm kind of pulling for them too. The teams are always at the top. I kind of want to see new blood up there. Like last year was so much fun with the Rangers and Arizona, and both of those teams made a lot of moves too. Texas wasn't a big surprise, but Arizona came out of nowhere and made it what a season for them. So this year, with all these moves, Vince, the team I think that came out the best on paper, it looks like the Baltimore Orioles with all these moves they made. I don't know what their minor leagues look like now, but that stat they're a lot better team today than they were last week. I think deeper team and to make that run all the way. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I feel like they did what was necessary to take them over the top. Now, of course, they have to perform, and that's always the X factor. Uh,
Yes.
but Corbin Burns cannot beat the Cubs, but he can beat everybody else. Um,
He
we
beats us.
we have no problem with him. Last time
Ah,
before, I think we beat him 5-0 or something like that. And that's been his whole career. He can't beat the Cubs for some ding dang reason. I don't know why. But to add Eflin to that, to give them a 1-2 punch going into the playoffs, that's exactly what they needed. And I'm curious with Austin Hayes being traded, are we going to see a call up of Jackson Holiday and see if they try to
ooh,
plug him in
oh,
somewhere
maybe.
and see what you got there. You want to know who I really like in Baltimore because he was a former Royal. He goes under the radar, but he has played so well for the Orioles the last couple of years. Ryan O'Hearn. They're batting him third, fourth, or fifth on a lot of nights. He's hitting about 250, but he walks a lot. He takes quality at bats, sees a lot of pitches, and he's got pop. So I'm kind of happy that former Royal Ryan O'Hearn has
I
found a
remember
home
him.
there. Not just a home, he's contributing to the middle part of that lineup. So
That shows you how good that team is. If Ryan O'Hearn was on one of our teams,
oh yeah,
it'd be headline. But that team is so stacked. He's just right there in the middle of that lineup, producing and coming through. And probably people are focusing on the three big guys or four, but he's right in there making a big contribution too. And that's what it takes to win. You guys and us through the years when we have our winning years, just surprises. Rookies come up and play beyond their means. These old guys somehow find that youthful magic and go one more good season, and it all kind of blends together. So, man, Vince is gonna be fun down the stretch. I tell you what, today even made it better. It's gonna be fun over the next couple of weeks watching games and seeing guys in their new uniforms and where they're going to bat, how they're going to pitch them, and that kind of thing. But as a fan, give these guys a couple of games because sometimes it takes a while. You're moving your family, you're trying to acclimate to a new city, and everybody's got such high expectations. Give them a week or so and let them get used to the new team and their new environment and see how they do after that.
yeah, I a few years back I was reading an article and players were anonymously talking uh, about being traded and the strain it causes on a family relocation. A lot of times when you have kids, they don't want to uproot them and put them in a new school system. So you have a lot of men who are traded who during the season just are not around their families at all. The divorce rate is very high. It's a for fans, it's fun, trading commodity. Ooh, cool, cool.
Yeah. Hi.
But for the human beings that get traded, it's such a stress and a strain. Even players who are traded to a good team and go on to win the World Series, something like that. Um, One of those guys was talking, said, I would trade it all to get my life back where, my family lived with me in my town. I moved to the West Coast and never saw them anymore except during the off season. And they eventually got a divorce. It's really tough. So
Well, I was in the Navy, and you're gone sometimes a year, 8 months at a time. And we didn't have these little computers where you could see each other or just talk. Maybe you come into port and use the use a payphone every 3 months or something like that. So I'm lucky. My wife is seems we're very happy when I'm gone. So we work out wonderful together.
Oh, you have any other general news you want to hit on?
Well, we're seeing some history here. The Chicago White Sox are so bad this year, 27 and 82. And I looked up, and over the 81 games this year, they were 21 and 60. Oh my goodness, that's terrible. And the worst the Sox have ever been before this season, they were 27 and 54 at the 81 game mark. And that was in 34 and 48. And so right now they're 27 and 82, which is horrible. And we're looking at maybe the worst team ever in the modern era when they've played 162 games. The worst team ever was the 1962 Mets. Sorry, Mark. And they were 40 and 120, and they had 2 games postponed they didn't make up. So you'd think, well, that's only 160 games, but there was 2 games they didn't make up. So they were 40 and 120. And I tell you what, the White Sox are what on a 16 game losing streak right now, and they're finding new and then they traded away their top players. So I don't know what's going to happen there, and I feel bad for them. But look on the bright side; they're probably going to get some good draft choices next year. But they were a team 2 years ago that was had a shot at winning the division, and now here they are at this. So it can happen quick and bottom out fast too. So I was just going to bring that up about the White Sox, and I think the worst team ever was the Cleveland Spiders, and this was in 1894, 20 and 134. Woo! Man, them Cleveland fans have went through some rough times.
Yeah,
21-34.
Cleveland
Uh,
Browns were bad. Yeah.
oh, yes, they've had some rough go. The Cavaliers until LeBron got there. Yeah,
Between the Mets, was it 62 their first season?
I believe so.
The difference between the Mets and the White Sox is the Mets were a brand new franchise, and I don't even know if they had an expansion draft at that time. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but that was just there was excuses, I guess you could say, and there's a fine line between excuse and reason. There were reasons they were 40. The White Sox are an established organization. They had talent a few years ago. They were a playoff team. They still have Luis Roberts, Eloy
That
Jimenez, who can't stay on the field. They've had some talent, um, but just terrible mismanagement. And it seems to be a culture of I don't give a damn. That seems to be the culture they've had the last couple of years. Right?
Well, Cease leaves and then he throws a no hitter with the Padres.
Yeah.
He left. Crochet was a guy everybody wanted, but then he said, "If I come to your team, if you want me to pitch in October, you got to restructure my contract." Well, that was the end of anybody trading for him right there. You're right, Vince, about it's just a comedy of errors over there right now. I feel kind of bad for their fans.
Yeah. All 10 of them.
All 10 of them. Hey, good seats can be had at a White Sox game, especially these last 2 months. You go over there, you'll get your own beer vendor set beside you and talk to you.
Speaking of good seats, um, I got rooftop seats for me and Max for September 22nd. They're not cheap, let me tell you.
Oh
But
no.
we were going to do like a weekend baseball trip. Maybe we were trying to do like a game at Wrigley, a game at I'll always call it Comiskey, and a game in Milwaukee. But
Hey.
we couldn't line up a weekend that would do that. So we thought, okay, what about like a game just with the Cubs and the Brewers that weekend, or a game with the Cubs and the White Sox? That wasn't lining up too well either. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe we can do like the Cubs and go all the way to Minneapolis. Then I thought, well, wait a minute. I could do a 1 day trip to Chicago. We could sit in the rooftop, which is an experience of a lifetime. Spend more money, a lot more money on the tickets, but I don't have to worry about lodging. We could come home. I don't know, maybe we could possibly take the Amtrak to Chicago and make it an easy trip. I don't
Yeah,
know, but yeah. So I'm really charged about that.
I'm happy for you guys. Who you seeing them play that day?
The Nationals.
Okay, all right, very good. I'm excited. You'll send video. Let's see the video when you go up there. That'll be great.
Yeah, I hope nobody throws me off the roof. I'm not the most likable guy.
Well, I think they do. Are you going to the one where they feed you and you get what you want to drink too during the game?
I don't. I know they have their own beer garden at the one we're going to.
Okay.
We're the two that are in left and the two that are in extreme right. They're in foul territory, and I did not want that. So I paid a little extra to get the one in left center because I didn't want to watch from that distance from I like when I'm in the outfield, I like to kind of see the ball coming at me and I
Yeah.
like to see down the lines and everything. So that's why I chose that one. I didn't really
Man, that's going to be great. I want a full report because that's something I'd like to do one day. I mean, that's one of the great things about Wrigley Field is it used to be a neighborhood. I think they've got some big businesses in there now and a hotel and everything. But it was a neighborhood with the bars and rooftops and just the vines and the history. That's going to be very cool, Vince. Very cool.
I do know this. They do have a big screen at this location. So, like replays and stuff we can actually see
Oh, that's
because
cool.
we're like 500 feet away or something. I don't know what we are. So kind of
That
cool.
that is very cool. And I don't know if you knew this, but in the wintertime, if you take a tour of Wrigley Field, you can pay extra and have an ex-Cub player do the tour. I saw that trying to think of who it was, but it was a guy. I was like, oh my gosh, I would go just to hang out with him and tell stories and stuff like that. It would be so cool to have an ex-player there just kind of showing you around and telling you his recollections of playing there. That would be pretty darn cool.
Cool.
Well, Vince, I have one other thing I wanted to bring up. There's a player that has been fantastic, but just like you were mentioning, O'Haron and really not getting the recognition he should. There's a player for the Minnesota Twins. He's a shortstop. He's 25 years old. His name is Royce Lewis. And I don't know if you knew this, but over the last 2 years, he averages a home run every 12.1 at bats. And he's up there only behind Aaron Judge in home runs per at bat. The problem with this guy is he can't stay healthy. He had a hamstring injury and several other injuries, so he's only played in the 3 years up. He's only had 358 at bats, but his statistics are so incredible. This guy, we're in an age of some really good shortstops. But right now, it's Aaron Judge hits a home run every 9.7 at bats. Royce Lewis, 12.1. Ozuna, 12.5. Otani, 12.7. Uh, the kid from the Orioles, Santander,
Now,
uh, yeah, 13, and Tyler O'Neill this year, 13.1. So he's up there with the big guys. And in his first 96 games, he he's like ninth. And you're talking about Bellinger and McGuire both had 34 home runs in their first 96 games, and this kid has 28 in his first 96 games. Just a name to watch. The Twins, if you ever wonder, boy, the Twins, I don't know many other players, but they're doing pretty good this year. He's one of the reasons. And if they can keep this kid healthy, Brant and Buxton, their center fielder, is another super player, but he gets hurt all the time. But in his 3 seasons, he's got a 4.0 WAR, 358 at bats, 108 hits. He's hitting 302, 28 home runs, 77 RBIs, and 6 stolen bases. So I always like to throw a name out there and just a guy to keep an eye on. But Royce Lewis of the Minnesota Twins, fantastic player, and just he should be on your radar, especially if you collect cards too, because I think he's only 25 years old, and I think pretty soon he's going to put it together and become a big star.
yeah, he had a really good playoffs last year. He had a couple home runs in the playoffs. Um, so yeah, he's one to keep an eye on.
Yes, sir.
What's going on with the Cardinals?
Well, the Cardinals, first of all, I'll talk about some of the transactions. And Vince, I'm very happy with the moves the Cardinals have made, and we pretty much gave up not much of anything. We started out the week, we DFA'd Giovanni Gallegos, and Gallegos has been with us for 7 years. I don't know if you remember, but we traded Luke Voigt, who was one of our big power hitters in the minors, and for Gallegos. And at the time, Voigt went nuts with the Yankees, but within 2 years he was gone, and he's floated around the league. But Gallegos did a very good job for the Cardinals, I would say, 4 of those 7 years. And at one time, he was our closer. But I knew his days were numbered because I would listen to the games on the radio, and I heard Ricky Horton say, sometimes when you start losing velocity, you got to figure out other ways to get people out. And he's had several bad innings, and I was just like, oh, I love all the Cardinals. I love, you want to see him stay there forever, but you can tell the last couple of years, it's just not the same, and he's been struggling. He's been hurt too. So they DFA'd him. I wish him all the best. He'll probably get an opportunity to go to spring training and be on a roster next year. Who knows? He might be back. Might develop a split finger or a knuckleball. Who knows? But he's gone. So hated to see that. But the big trade came this week where it was a three-way deal with the Yankees and the White Sox and the Cardinals.
It's the
And
Dodgers.
oh, I'm sorry. It is the Dodgers. I guess I was looking up top a little bit there. Yes, you're correct. We ended up parting ways with Tommy Pham, and we love Tommy Pham. Tommy's a switch hitter, a gold glover at second base. He was projected to be our center fielder this year, and he had risk.
You said Tommy Pham, you meant Tommy Edmonds.
Oh, Tommy Edmonds. My gosh, Vince. Well, I think I had the Heineken. I'm
Yes,
drinking
you
milk.
drink my beer.
I swear I'm drinking milk. We have milk that's about to expire, so I'm drinking milk. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Tommy Edman. And I love Tommy Edman. Switch hitter. He led the team, the St. Louis Cardinals, 3 years in a row in stolen bases. I believe he's got the highest percentage of stolen bases, of successfully stealing bases in the history of the Cardinals. Now, I think that's only like 100 steals, but he's been our most successful base stealer. So he was fast. He hustled. Everybody liked him. He got moved to the outfield. He was a player who would go wherever you needed him to go, but he had wrist surgery and he never recovered. And it just seems like it's just been lingering. He went to the minors. He hurt his ankle. So it's not like we're missing him right now. And we have a kid that we got last year in the Montgomery trade named Thomas Sagis. And Thomas Sagis is supposed to be like a Donovan and Edmond, what you call a Swiss Army knife, and play many positions, except he's got more power than them. And he's every bit the fielder those guys are. So he became expendable. And we also traded a minor leaguer. And Vince, I don't even know this minor league. He was a minor league pitcher. And if he's one of our minor league pitchers, chances are he wasn't, the greatest pitcher in the world. I'm being dead honest with you, Cardinal fans. We're not known for bringing up great pitching. Every once in a while, we'll get a blue chipper, but that's about it. Anyway, we made this trade, and we bring back Tommy Pham. That's why I had it in my mind, Vince, Tommy Pham. And I love Tommy Pham. Tommy Pham, he's a hothead, but sometimes you need that on your team. Tommy Pham will fight the other team, fight your own teammates sometimes. And when we had him before, he played 5 years here, and I heard that he actually went down to the spring training this year and pleaded a case to come back to the Cardinals, but we're so outfield rich that we just didn't have a spot for him. And he went to the White Sox, and he gives you his all. He's been successful. He played in the World Series last year, had a great series, and we also picked up a pitcher. My gosh, my handwriting is so small, Vince.
Eric,
Uh, yeah, Eric Fetty. And I was looking at his stats this year, 7-4. And Vince, I know people are going 7-4, but that's on a team that won 27 games. That's like Steve
yeah,
Carlton like in my book. What do you
yeah,
think of it?
he's a good pitcher. He's not Garrett Crochet, but
Right.
he's a really good pitcher. You've upgraded.
Uh, And this probably will be number two pitcher behind Sonny Gray. And I know Sonny's lost his way a little bit here lately, but I'm excited about this. And we not only have him this year, but we have him next year too. So I hope those that Cardinal Magic, he comes here, does a good job. Fam, I said we needed a starting pitcher, some help in the bullpen, and a right-handed bat. And Tommy Pham is a right-handed bat. I like him. He's good defensively. He's 36 now, and I just like the way he plays baseball, and I like his attitude. And every team needs a Tommy Pham on it. You're better off with a Tommy Pham on your team.
Well,
So, Vince, what'd you think of that move?
I like it, and we've talked about how much I like Tommy Pham. Um, but this is not a very popular move amongst most Cardinal fans. Tommy Pham is looked at as a head case. I've seen comments like, "Yeah, what's he going to do? Introduce himself to the brother, the guy he threatened to kill?" Because he and William Contreras had that thing a few weeks ago. Tommy Pham is uh, not trying to get too much in societal
Yeah.
stuff, but baseball has become a sport of privileged people. You have to have money to make it if you're an American ball player because there's all these traveling teams and everything. And like like we brought up a few months ago with Scott Throneberry, it's a huge financial investment. And Tommy Pham was not raised rich. I think he was raised in Watts. Um,
He says he's from Las Vegas. I maybe he was Watts one time, but I think he claims Las Vegas or something like that.
I read a story. He grew up in a rough area, and he had the eye issues, and
Yes.
that hurt his growth. He's kind of been the type of person who has a chip on his shoulder, and I get that. I mean, he had to fight claw for everything he got, especially when you've got an eye issue and you're trying to be a major league baseball player. So he didn't make it to the big leagues until he was a little older, which means even though he had some good seasons, he never really cashed in a big free agent money because he was in his late 20s when he finally made it to the majors. Um, but he's the type of guy you don't have to figure out where you stand with him because he's either going to shake your hand or punch you in the face. Um, but I like him. He's a good bat off the bench, and I think he's a positive addition. I read so many people saying he's a locker room cancer. I really haven't heard that from from players. That kind of stuff usually gets out. I think the players on his team like him. I think they understand where he's coming from. And one thing, he's not gonna loaf. He takes his
No.
job serious and he works friggin' hard. So I
And
like
if Yeah, and if you're in the trenches, that's the kind of guy you want right next to you. And I give Mosaic a lot of credit because if they did have a bad experience, this is the best for the team. A guy like that coming on your team, and I know we had problems maybe in the past. I don't know if him and Mosaic did, but I thought he said something about maybe they kept him down in the minors, like you mentioned, a little longer than he should have been down there.
he
I don't.
made some statements. I think it was the Sports Illustrated while he was a Cardinal, and I mean that's why he's a great interview. He's going to tell you what's on his mind.
Amen.
And he was a little critical of the Cardinals, and that's not the Cardinal way. And he was gone the next season, so um, they know what they're getting with him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I'm glad he's here. And another well, so we got Pham and Fetty, and I think that's just going to make the team better. We got that right-handed bat now, and he takes good at bats, and then we got a lot of guys that do that on the team. And I like kind of stretching that lineup a little bit more of guys that take good at bats. Then also, it just seemed like over the last few days that Dylan Carlson was not going to stay on the team. He made a big error in a game and took a wrong route and just went over his head. He's always been a good fielder. And I've liked Dylan Carlson. He was a number one draft choice. He was a huge prize in our minor leagues. Everybody was wanting the first couple of years, but here lately he's gotten opportunities. Not a lot, but he just hasn't come through. I always, and I heard a lot of Cardinal fans say this, if he would just bat, he wanted to be a switch hitter. If he would just bat right-handed, his numbers are really good right-handed, and I believe it's right-handed, and the other one's pretty low. And I always wish he just batted right-handed because I thought he'd be much better player if he just went right-handed. So he's been platooned, and we traded him to Tampa Bay and got a pitcher. I write so small, and I was trying to. I already had everything written out, and I had to squeeze it in there. But Sean Armstrong, and this kid has not had a very good year this year. But last year he had a real good year. But he is a strikeout pitcher. A lot of strikeouts. Has a little trouble with his control. But over his last 5 games, I looked. In his last 5 games, he's done very well. He's friends with Kittredge, who they were teammates at one time. He's an older guy coming to the team, right-handed reliever, so that's a little help in the bullpen. And we've had some guys, I think, just kind of getting, they kind of hit the wall. And Roycroft, some of these guys, it's just been struggling. Livator's had a rough go of it of late. It's like that second tier of the relievers have really been, you know, it's been rough, but they've been pitched hard and heavy all year long. So I understand. So Dylan Carlson's gone. Wish him all the best. He's down there in Tampa Bay. He should get a lot of playing time down there, Vince, because they moved a lot of their players there. But maybe he can revive himself and show, have a chip on his shoulder and say, hey, this is what you missed. Because the Cardinals we've traded a lot of guys over the years that have turned out to, like Tyler O'Neill this year. My gosh, he's all world, after we got rid of him. But he kind of ran his course. And the Cardinals had such a huge outfield, and we got more outfielders coming from the minors. Jordan Walker's going to be here eventually. So I just don't think there was a place for Dylan Carlson. And we got a bullpen guy out of it. I was actually hoping, Vince, we got Finnegan from the Nationals. I would thought we'd had to throw in another minor leaguer, but I was hoping we got Finnegan and have a Helsley Finnegan thing in the back of the bullpen. That was my hopes, but didn't happen. But Vince, I'm going to briefly go over the Cardinals week. It started out like gangbusters. The last time we were on here, we were going against the Pirates and Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens hasn't lost a game in a year. The last time he lost was in the College World Series against the Arkansas Razorbacks, and that was his last loss. And the Cardinals fought him tooth and nail, and we won 2-1, and he got his first loss. But if you look at his pitching line, it was incredible. He went 8 1/3, 2 earned runs, no walks, 8 Ks, and he has a 1.93 ERA. That's how good this kid is. I'm a Cardinal fan, and I'm not talking about the Cardinals. Well, we won, but we beat Paul Skeens, and this guy just taking him to the limits, a major accomplishment. So I had high hopes that, hey, and Helsley came in and got his 33rd save. So I had high hopes. We played the rubber game, and the Pirates beat us fair and square. Martin Perez, a lefty. That's why we need that right-handed bat. He, who has not had a great year, but he took it to us that day. And Livator and Roycroft just had a terrible inning. Roycroft, Livator went 3 innings with 5 earned runs, just did not have it, and we got killed. But the offense didn't do anything that day. So I think if they scored 1 run, they would have beat us. So we lose 2 out of 3 to the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are now even with us with their record. A day off Thursday, it couldn't come any sooner. And then Friday we played the Nationals. We lose to them 10-8, and that was the game that Carlson made a miscue. But Goldie got his 2,000th hit. And not every ball player gets to 2,000 hits. That's a major accomplishment. It was a home run. It was a home run. So, God love Goldie. We love him. And we lost the game. Fernandez came in and pitched an inning and gave up 3 runs. And that really cost us. So we lose the first game against the Nationals. We were really looking to hopefully beef up against these Nationals. They're a good team, but we should beat them. And Saturday we lose 14-3, and it's just depressing. They had a 7-run 6th inning, and again it was Roycroft, a third of an inning, 3 runs. Libby, 2/3 of an inning, 4 runs, and Gallegos, 1.2 of an inning and 1 run. So our bullpen just let us down that game, and 14-3. But again, we only scored 3 runs. And Sunday we finally got a win. We beat the Nationals. Helsley got the win. Goldie had a walk-off home run, and he's been hitting better, Vince. I know his batting average is only 235, but at least he's getting a hit or two, and his bats are a little bit better. He's taking the ball the other way. I think that's when Goldie's going good, is when they pitch him outside and he takes the ball the other way, and that's what he's been doing of late. Podges is on like 11-game hitting streak, and Ciani had a couple hits. Michaelis had a quality start, 6 innings, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 3 Ks. And the bullpen of King, Kittredge, and Helsley did the job, and we held on and won that game. And then Monday, the world champion Texas Rangers come in, and you can just see this is a better team than us. I mean, we go out there, but they're just a better quality team. They beat us 6-3, and it was 3-2 till the top of the seventh, and they scored 3 runs, and that was kind of the end of it there. But Palante has done a good job being our fifth starter. I think now that we've got this other pitcher coming in, Palante will move to the bullpen. Hopefully, that makes the team better. But Palante has done a really good job being that fifth starter. And I think next year, Vince, in spring training, he's got a shot to make the starting rotation. Um, Matt Carpenter hit his third home run of the season. It's always good to have Matt back. And Goldie had 2 more hits. And the Cardinals had 2 errors. And Burleson got his first error as a major leaguer in Arenado. And that just doesn't happen every day. But anyway, here we are. We're out of the playoffs as far as the wild card is concerned. But, we got a lot of weeks left. If we get all this new additions in here, set our roster, and go for it, who knows? We might be a wild card team this year, or we might just miss out. But I'm excited. It's been fun, but this week was a tough week, Vince. And for us Cardinal fans, it didn't really nothing clicked this week. So that's it for my Cardinal report.
All right, in Cubby news, Bellinger's back today, and Bellinger did not get traded, which is what I thought that the contract was going to be very difficult to move. I'm sure there was interest, but it's a bad contract. So, and talking about, I'll get into the trades, but I think it's interesting who did not get traded. Nico Horner did not get traded, so he's entrenched in second for the rest of the year. What's going to happen in the offseason, who knows? Hap Suzuki did not get traded, but of course they have the no trade clauses, so I didn't really expect them to get traded. Tyone did not get traded, and Tyone actually made the start last night, which was a little puzzling because teams were interested, but the Cubs were asking quite a bit. And so I will give Jed Hoyer a lot of credit. He did not say we're buying. He did not say we're selling. He said a few weeks ago that we are going to make moves that make sense to make us a contender in 2025. Okay, I, along with everybody else, read that as you're selling. That's the kind of things a GM says when they're selling. But he actually stuck with that. We did a few trades for earlier in the week. We traded for center fielder Gilberto Celestino from the Pirates. So it's a minor league deal, but this guy has some upside. So okay, minor league deal. I wouldn't mention it normally, but he does have some upside. The Blue Jays traded right-handed pitcher Nick Pearson to the Cubs for shortstop Jose Rivera and outfielder Yannick Pinanga to not looked at high prospects for us. Nate Pearson has a great arm, throws really hard, but just cannot harness it. And last night in his debut for the Cubs, gosh, I can't remember who it was, but he hit him in the head with a fastball. And that was after a home run, and he got tossed. It was apparent he wasn't throwing at him because it's one of those pitches, the ball starts over the plate, just rides, hit him in the head. And even the hitter, I don't remember which one it was for the Reds, he didn't charge the mound or anything. I know Amaya was talking to him, and he kept saying, but it's my head. Like, calm your boy down because he throws really hard. We did pick up Pearson, so we are trying to get some velocity in the bullpen for the years to come. So the biggest trade came on Sunday when we traded third baseman Christopher Morel, who I did not think we were going to trade. I thought we would keep him around for DH position and have Matt Shaw come up and play third. But we traded Christopher Morel and Hunter Biggie, who I really like. He's had a few stints with the Cubs this year, throws really hard. Traded him traded them to the Rays for third baseman all-star Isaac Paredes. Last year he hit 31 home runs, drove in 98. This year he was all-star. Now he's not been hitting; he's been slumping in July, but his numbers are really good. 15 home runs, about 60 RBIs. Um, uh, Not a high strikeout guy, and he walks about 12% of the time. And he's a plus defender. He's not an elite defender, but he's certainly better than what we've had. The Christopher Morel experiment is over. Christopher Morel, love him. He's a great person, great human being. And I'm curious, since the Rays traded a Rosarena, if they're going to say, you're a left fielder, learn how to play left field and just hit the ball. Nobody watches what's going on in Tampa, so you can relax. You're not in the big thing in Chicago, so just play your game. So I think he'll thrive there. We also traded Mark Leiter Jr. to the Yankees for shortstop Benjamin Cowles and right-handed pitcher Jack Neely. And I we have a plethora of middle infielders in the minor leagues. So I was curious why we picked up a shortstop, but you know, if he's got bullets in his gun, then we'll fire them. So we only went 2-5 this week, or 2-4 this week. I don't know if they say we're
Same with us. Yeah.
On Tuesday, we lost to the Brewers 1-0. Swanson and Horner did each have 2 hits. And Jameson Tyone pitched 7 in the third inning, 1 run to get the loss. So Tuesday, we played the Brewers again, the third game, and of the series, we won the first last week on Monday. But third game, we lost 3-2. Suzuki had a home run, a couple of hits, steal, 5 in the third innings, 2 runs. Tyson Miller came in, gave up a couple of hits, and he got the loss. Neris also pitched an inning, gave up a run, whatever. It's kind of surprising Neris didn't move on either, but he didn't. So then we go to Kansas City. Okay. First game against the Royals, we lose 6-0. And Suzuki got a couple of hits. Hendricks pitched 5 innings, gave up 6 runs, but Suzuki misplayed a ball. Should have got him out of the inning, and then the floodgates opened. So, okay, that sucked. So we are playing the Royals, and I'm thinking, okay, we're going to be lucky to win one. And that one seemed to come the next night on Tuesday, on Saturday. Jeez, I have to drink
The Heineken.
We won 9-4 against the Royals, and we beat Cole Reagans. Suzuki had a couple hits, Talkman a couple hits. PCA had a hit. Wisdom came off the bench and hit a pinch hit grand slam. Put us ahead. Suzuki also homered in that game. So we beat the Royals. Imanaga, 5 2/3, 3 runs. But Merriweather came in and he was pitching when we went ahead, so he got the win. So then the rubber game with the Royals, we went 7-3 on Sunday. And I'm thinking, all right, we take 2 out of 3 in Kansas City. That's the day that Morel got traded. He started at DH, had 1 at bat, and then we brought in Michael Bush because Morel got traded in like the second or third inning, and he's hugging everybody goodbye. Bush came in and went 2 for 4, so awesome. PCA had 3 hits. Betancourt had 2 hits. Wisdom hit another home run. And Assad pitched 6 innings, 3 runs, got the win. So, all right. So what do? We're going to go to Cincinnati. And we lose 7-1 the first game. The only run we scored was a home run by Bush in the 9th inning, top of the 9th. Tyone, 4 1/3 innings, 6 earned runs. He just didn't have it. And last I checked tonight, we're losing to the Reds again, 5-0. Like we either score 7, 8, 6 runs, something like that, or we get shut out or only score 1 run. Very frustrating, but that's life as a Cub fan. My life has been frustrating because I'm a Cub fan. So,
Vince, I think when they said we're selling this year, I think it took a lot of steam out of the team. Seemed like from that moment on, it's just it's just sort of I don't know. It hasn't been the same since then.
We were hot going into the All-Star game, and we came out just flat. And that's when Jed made the announcement. He didn't say we were selling, like I said. He said we're going to only make moves to make our team better for 2025.
Oh, okay.
Um, but we've just been flat since the All-Star game. I don't know what happened. I wish we could have kept Mike because we were 10 and
Yeah, you're right there. You
um,
know, I sometimes, and I know this sounds so ridiculous, superstition and everything, but sometimes what I'm hoping for is we get July out of the way here. I don't even know what month it is, and when August starts, sometimes you just get hot. A month changes, or you were real hot, then all of a sudden you get cold. I don't know, so I'm hoping down the stretch something happens. Some of these new players come in, and I don't know, it just gels or something like that. But we've been flat too since the All-Star break as well. I think, Vince.
do you know who's going to be hot in August?
He's all hot August nights, Neil Diamond and Jeremy Connor.
Jeremy Connor. Comes a time in every man's life when he needs some advice on relationships. You need to listen to the podcast DMDR, which stands for Dating, Marriage, Divorce, Remarriage, from my good friend Jeremy Connor, the Dr. Phil of the Boot Hill. You can find DMDR on Spotify or whatever platform you choose to listen to your podcast. All right, we're gonna talk a few baseball books, and this isn't like my top five or anything or JJ's stuff. We're just books that we've read about baseball that have made an impact on us. And I've only got three of them here because
I got three.
books don't make that big of an impact. No, I'm joking. There's been three baseball books that I've read that I've thought I need to read that again. So these are the books that, and I generally don't read books a second time. Um, so JJ, why don't you get us started and tell me about a book that really impacted you that you really
I
like.
read statistics. That's what I like. I like Baseball Digest. You get a short little story, Wrestling Illustrated, TV Guide. I'm that kind of reader. I like the articles in Playboy. So that's kind of my reading and the back of a baseball card. That's kind of it. Oh, and of course, the Holy Bible. But besides that, that's about all I read. So I read a book that was not recommended to me. I saw an interview with Charlie Rose with an author named David Haberstein. It was called October 64. And it was so compelling in the interview. I said, you know what? I'm going to go out and buy that book. And I read it and I couldn't put it down. It's about it's about the World Series in 1964, which that game, that was the Cardinals and the Yankees. But not only that, in 1964, America was kind of changing. The Yankees had been this dynasty forever. And in 1964, if you go back and look, that was kind of the end. They had these teams from Ruth all the way through Mantle, and they were always just a juggernaut. In 1964, the players got older, and they finally didn't have this young guys that came up. They went to the World Series that year, but it was mainly a white team and a power-based team. The Cardinals were a team of different nationalities and different ethnic backgrounds. And not only did they had Mantle and Maris, but we had Gibson and Brock, and the base stealing kind of became a thing. And Gibson just standing there on the mound, and McCarver going out. And he told him to get back behind the thing. It was just a different dynamic. And the Cardinals that year came out of nowhere to even get in the playoffs. And in the World Series that year, the Phillies, we got past the Phillies to get to the World Series. And it was a great World Series. And it also just talked about the old ways of baseball and with the new ways coming in. And it was just such a great read. And David Haberstein kind of just captured the years and the tradition and what was going on. And the Yankees, after that, really didn't come back around until the mid 70s. And that was when old Steinbrenner went out and just bought all the free agents. And it was kind of a different kind of baseball because free agency came in 74. So anyway, if you get that book, I'm guarantee you, if you're just a moderate baseball fan, You will be enthralled in this. And I read that book. I probably read that book in 2 days, and I really liked it. And I've always now I'm a fan of Haverstein. He writes all kinds of different types of books, but he's wrote a few about baseball, and that was my favorite one right there.
I'm gonna talk about my my first book is not a well-known book. It's called No More Mr. Nice Guy, and it was put out in 1990, and it was written by Dick Williams and Bill Plaschke. Um,
Oh, yeah.
Dick Williams was not a nice guy. He managed the Red Sox in '67 to the World Series. He managed one of the Oakland teams to a World Series championship. He took over the Expos and made them contenders. He took the Padres to the World Series, and then I think he finished his career with the Mariners. Um, but he talks about his 20-year adventure in managing. And what I really like about this book is it's like Jim Bouton's Ball Four, except he's talking from management perspective and not the player's perspective. And he does not hold back on anything. Um, he's outspoken and he talks about his disdain for Charlie Finley, Ray Kroc, Tom Yawkey, who owned the Red Sox at the time. Um, and he doesn't hold back. And he also talks about people that he liked. He loved Carl Yastrzemski. He loved Reggie Jackson. He loved Goose Gossage. He loved these people. And Dick Williams was the type of person, if he liked you, and there were more attributes besides talent that made him like you. If you were a winner, his kind of ball player, he liked you. If you weren't, he didn't have anything to do with you. There's a story, and I'm going to use a profanity here.
All right.
In '67, he's managing the Red Sox. And I don't recall who the player was, but they got in a shouting match. And Dick Williams has indigestion at this time. And they start tussling, and Dick Williams loses his bowels. So this is so gross. So he takes off his pants and goes into the clubhouse and tells the players, "You see this? If you mess with me, I'm going to shit all over you." He took this thing and just made it a funny situation, gross but funny situation. He talks about once at the winter trade meetings, Whitey Herzog, and another manager were drinking at a bar that had this big, huge fish tank. And so they had been drinking, and they all three strip down to their underwear and they jump in the fish tank and do some crude things with eggs and hot dogs. It's
Oh man.
even religion. He talks about Alvin Davis when he was playing for the Mariners. He said he would call Davis into his room and try to explain to him, this is why you're not hitting right now. You need to do this and this. And Davis would just say, yeah, it's all in Jesus' hands. And he would say, Jesus doesn't hit, you do. So it was just a refreshing read from a guy who was truly a rebel. He did not like ownership. Even though he was management, he was more kind of a player's manager, but just gives a perspective that you don't see. You don't see like Whitey Herzog or all these. Not going to see Jim Bowden or Jed Hoyer or somebody writing a book of all the crazy things that they did at the trade convention or whatever, but he does, and it's just a fun read.
I want to read that now. Thanks, man. That was a good recommendation. I'm excited to get that one. My next book is it's kind of a coffee table book. It's Reggie Jackson's scrapbook. It's the official scrapbook of Reggie Jackson. I'm not sure who all wrote it, but they had pictures. I loved Reggie Jackson. This book came out in 1978. I had this book with me. I must have read that book 10 times. It was an easy read, a lot of pictures in it when Reggie was a little kid, baby pictures, little league, growing up. I even though we weren't from the same area and we're not the same ethnic background, I always had a kinship to Reggie Jackson. Well, I have a bunch of jerseys of Reggie Jackson. His last name's Jackson, my last name's Jackson, and I always just thought the world of him. And I got this scrapbook, and it goes through him coming up, playing in college, getting drafted by the A's, his A's years, some pictures I'd never seen before, and it kind of ends with him hitting the 3 home runs in the World Series for the Yankees and then winning the World Series. And it just goes through his whole career. It's light reading. It's not nothing like No More Mr. Nice Guy, what's behind the scenes or anything. It kind of builds up Reggie as a good guy who worked hard and became probably the most known baseball player at that time. And the little extra on it on the bottom of the book, if you turn the pages real quick, it's got Reggie swinging. It's like a little movie. You can turn it like that, and it's got him swinging. So that's a pretty cool little thing there. I got on eBay today and I found it, so I'm gonna order that again. I had that book and I'm just gonna put it on my bookshelf and look through it every once in a while. So anyway, Reggie Jackson scrapbook right there.
Very good. My second book is Ball Four by Jim Bouton and Leonard Schechter, which was put out in 1970. This is the book that changed sports books. Because before this, your sports books were basically very sanitized, I guess you could say. And Jim Bouton wrote this about the 1969 season with the Seattle Pilots. Jim Bouton had been a 20-game winner for the Yankees, pitched in the World Series, and then he had arm problems. And then he developed the knuckleball, and the Pilots were the only team that would give him a chance. Book starts with him saying, I used to love to negotiate my contracts back when the players negotiated their own contracts. So I walked in there and they just said, here it is. Okay, because he was just lucky to have a job. What makes the book groundbreaking is that it was the first book where he wrote about what really happened behind the scenes. He wrote about the drunken womanizing, the drug use, players smoking pot and taking amphetamines. And he said, hey, I did it too. He talks about how he has self-doubt that he can pitch in the majors anymore, and he's trying to develop this knuckleball. And the only reason he's in the league is because the Pilots are a new team and they play for a terrible ballpark, and it was just Pilots in Seattle. If you should just look up and read about that whole fiasco that happened for that year. The manager of the Pilots was a guy named Joe Schultz, and the pitching coach was Sal Magley, who pitched for
Cardinal.
the barber because he liked to headhunt. And I love how he talks about Magley and Schultz. And at one time, Schultz came out to the mound to take him out or something, and Schultz came out and said, "You should see the rack on the lady back." I'm just like, this is how it really is. Talks about how they would sneak getting hot dogs in the bullpen, and they'd be called in, and he'd be trying to rub the mustard off of his face. But he even called out people like Mantle, Whitey Ford, Elston Howard, and these players hated him for this. They wanted to beat the crap out of him because he talked about what the players were really like. It was kind of a tell-all book. And in the middle of the season, he's traded. He gets sent to the minors, which was in Hawaii, which basically he's like, man, I had fun. Drank Mai Tais and pitched. He gets traded to the Houston Astros, maybe in the Colt 45s then. I don't know when they changed their name exactly. And he had one game where he pitched like a complete game shutout, because in Seattle he's just in the bullpen. But just a fun read. I've read it a few times. I bought it from Max, and I'm sure he's read it by now. But it's the groundbreaking book that is all these other tell-all books is based on, basically.
Vince, you're right. I remember players not happy with that book when it came out, and he made some enemies. But also he gained fans is like it giving us an insight to how the game really is. We only see it as this, nice sport and that kind of stuff, but there's so much behind the scenes stuff that I'm eager to know. And my third book is exactly that. Um, Tony La Russa is a guy. He's kind of dividing rod. A lot of people think I'm sick of Tony La Russa. He's overrated. Some people love Tony La Russa. I mean, Jim Leland, huge Tony La Russa fan. I'm a Tony La Russa fan. Of course, I'm a Cardinal fan, and the years that he was here was pretty. It's just a special time. We kind of got back our mojo when he was here. But there's a book called Three Nights in August: Strategy, Heartbreak, and Joy Inside the Mind of a Manager. And I like this book because I've always been a Tony La Russa fan, and like him or not, he's been around forever. He's seen all these different things, learned a lot of things along the way. And basically, this breaks down a 3-game series between the Cardinals and Cubs and why Tony did some of the things he did and why he didn't. And, as fans, we don't know. Some people are sick. Some people, now we know with all the statistics they put out there that this guy just annihilates that guy, or I'm going to save this bullpen guy because once they use that guy, then I can bring this guy in. Just so much strategy and layers. And this is every day. And 3 games is only just a little meat part of the season, but it means so much. And sometimes it gets your team having confidence. And when do you put the foot on the gas? And I think Tony Russo was a guy who always put the foot on the gas. So anyway, as a Russo fan, it was a neat look into behind the scenes and why he did some of the things he did. And I'm really glad this book was written. And I wish they would do it on more managers and players. I like to see a batter talk about his at bats versus a certain pitcher and along the way in the history of that and all that. I just get into that kind of thing. So anyway, that's my third book, Vince.
What I really liked about that book is they did a good job breaking down the strategy, plus bringing the human element into it. Because during that series, we talked about Mark Pryor last week. The book shows the kind of fear the Cardinals had facing Pryor. This is a major league team that's very successful, coming off 2003. So they had a pretty good year.
Mm-hmm.
They're facing Pryor, and they're scared to death to face him, which I thought was kind of revealing. Um, I read a book, Billy Bean book, and he was talking about how um, when he and Lenny Dykstra first went to their first spring training camp, uh, Steve Carlton's forming up to pitch spring training against him. And Dykstra says, "Who's that guy?" And Billy Bean's like, "That's Steve Carlton." He said, "I'll kill him." I mean, so it's kind of like a different mentality that players
Oh,
have. And Three Nights in August does a good job of not only doing the strategy, but also just bringing in that human element. Really cool. So,
that's behind the scenes. Yeah.
well, my final book is one that I encourage everybody to read. It's my favorite baseball book, put out in 2016. It's Ty Cobb at Terrible Beauty by Charles Learson. Um, what this is a very well researched book. And most of what I read in my reading time is history. And I love, there are certain historians that are just great at doing the research. Learson does his homework. And to give you, people have this perception of Ty Cobb as being this terrible human being. And that's because Al Stump wrote a book um, about he spent some time with Ty Cobb in the early '60s and wrote a baseball book. But after I think sometime in the '70s, he released another book saying, "No, this is the real Ty Cobb," and it was just an assassination of Cobb as a human being. He's a racist. He's a hothead. He's violent. He's a criminal. And that was the perception that I had of Ty Cobb growing up. I remember when Pete Rose broke the hit record, he's on Donahue like the next day, because Donahue was then filmed in Cincinnati. And Pete Rose even said, I don't like being compared to Ty Cobb because he was such a nasty human being. Oh, now we know.
Right.
Learson does a great job. Ty Cobb was not an angel, but he wasn't a terrible human being. In fact, he championed African American players. He was a big fan of them, and he was very helpful to try to lay the groundwork to get them in major league. And he was thrilled when the color barrier was broke. Um, Stump had an extra grind with Cobb and wanted to sell books. And Stump was an alcoholic. He had his issues, and the people in the know, other sports writers, did not take his book seriously in the 70s because that's Al Stump. He's just a jerk. But that's the perception that we had. In the movie that came out in 94, I believe, called Cobb with Tommy Lee Jones, who at the time was 94, trying to pass as a 22-year-old Ty Cobb. Um, that is taken from the Stump book, where it makes Cobb look like a terrible human being. What Learson does is he gives an honest portrayal of Cobb. Did Cobb gamble? Yeah, he had a gambling problem. What did Cobb beat up a guy in a wheelchair? No, that's folklore. Um, did Cobb go into the stands because someone called him half black? No, that didn't happen. Um, but he does just a great job of saying this is who the real Ty Cobb is. And I wish every baseball fan would read that, and because it will change your perception of the human being Ty Cobb was. Smart guy, the first millionaire baseball player, and he didn't make his millions playing baseball. He invested in Coca-Cola. So a tremendous businessman. He gave a lot to hospitals. He gave a lot of money to charity. Not a bad guy. So read A Terrible Beauty by Charles Learson if you want a pretty good portrayal of the real Ty Cobb.
All right. Excellent. Excellent.
JJ, you want to know what I'm doing?
Opening up a pack of
Open
cards.
the future stars.
Well, P. Rose Jr. was in there last time.
Yeah. What do
Yeah.
you got?
I'm pretty proud of this. This is a little high dollar on my end, but the Bowman 24s. And this is a good one. This is some of the best young players. It's $15. I don't like to. Hey, I spent 50, but it's kind of expensive, and you only get 10 cards. They're very nice quality, and they're players before they're like some. They take a chance to put out the players before they even get close to the big leagues. The Paul Skeens card from this set last year is kind of climbing up pretty fast. So you never know who you're going to get in here. And sometimes they have some real special cards, numbered cards and stuff.
Well, let's just full disclosure. JJ did not spend $15 on that pack of cards. So I'll go give mine first. We're just going to hear a bunch of players that we never heard of
Hey,
before.
we might get a future star in there.
I think when I've opened these once, I got Cal Ripken Jr. I think that's the only World or Hall of Famer I got. Oh my gosh! Phoenix Firebird, first baseman Mike Laga, and you
Michael Haga
score
hit it out of the park.
hit a home run out of Busch Stadium. That was a foul ball, but that's pretty
Hey,
cool.
that's pretty cool. That's a claim to fame.
Shortstop who had a good major league career at this time. He's playing with the Tacoma Tigers. Mike Bordick,
Mike Bordick. Yeah,
another major leaguer, a pitcher for the Oklahoma City 89ers, Mike Jeffcoat.
I remember him.
All right. This guy has the most generic name. I might have seen him. I don't know. Dave Miller, pitcher for the Oklahoma City 89ers.
I remember Dyer Miller, but I don't know Dave.
Oh my gosh. I've got a
Uh-oh.
mascot for the Buffalo Bisons. It's Buster T. Bison.
I thought that was Brian Wilson, the reliever with his hat pulled down.
If you're ever going to a card show and you see that Buster T. Bison is there, you're going to have to take my card and get it signed.
What's the T stand for? Does it say?
No.
Oh, I like that. Mysterious.
Pitcher for the Omaha Royals, Steve Fireroyd. Don't know that guy.
No, I don't know.
Wow. Even the trainer gets a card. Trainer
Wow.
for the Iowa Cubs, Dave Grossman.
Look at that. Styling with that V-neck.
1989 Pacific Coast League, Tucson Toros. Checklist. Just a bunch of guys. Yeah, Charlie Kerfeld's on this. Ron Washington,
Oh,
Ed
hey.
Westberg. There's a few here. Casey Candell, Harry Spillman. This wasn't a bad team. A lot of guys
I'll be
played Major League Ball on that team.
Charlie Kerfeld, little side note, when he pitched, he wore a Jetsons t-shirt under his jersey. Big fan of the Jetsons, ladies and gentlemen.
Boy, he was poof.
I
Gone.
know. He faded out quick.
Manager for the Colorado Springs Sky Sox, Mike Hargrove.
I'll be darned.
Mike Hargrove.
There he is. Look out, man.
Finally. Oh, I remember this guy. He pitched for the in the majors, I think for Cleveland. At this time, he's with the Portland Beavers, Larry Cassian. So
Portland Beavers.
I'm pretty pleased with this pack.
That was a great pack. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing those. Well, I'm opening it up again. The Bowman 2024s. There they are. And the first one I got is going to be a Hall of Famer. This shows you what their cards look like this year. There's Verlander right there.
Uh,
How about that? Nice card. It's got the B right here in the corner for Bowman. And a huge star. I don't know. These City Connect jerseys are pretty good, but it's Ella De La Cruz right there.
oh gosh, yeah.
Very nice, man. That guy's a stud. Ricky Card. It's got the RC in the corner. So how about that? Oh no, we always mention a player and they come back in here, and I was very sad when he went around hugging everybody. Christopher Morel right there. That'd probably be one of his last cup cards, unless he comes back. That has happened before. Uh, okay. Cleveland Guardians, Gavin Williams. I don't know much about this cat right here. Does that ring a bell with you, Gavin Williams?
No.
No. Okay. Vince, I have an autograph card in here. I do not know this guy. He's with the California Angels. His name is Anthony Scrawl, and it's autographed. How about that?
Well, let's hope he goes into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, right there. I'll be driving me a Cadillac. Let's see. This is the Toronto Blue Jays. Vince, I can't say this cat's name. Maybe you can make it out, but there he is.
I can't see it.
Oh, no, maybe there. There. Anyway, nice looking player right there.
His name is
Yeah, what that guy.
John
Yeah.
Smith.
Miles Naylor, a
Ah,
from Oakland A's, and there he is. It says first card. They have a thing here where it says first card right here. So that's his very first card.
cool.
Uh hmm. Camilo Diaz from the Houston Astros. There he is. Two more cards here. Oh, these are chrome. Both of these, Bryce Eldridge of the San Francisco Giants, and they're chrome cards. Very nice. How about that? Chrome cards bring a little bit extra, especially if it's a player you like. You might as well get the chrome card. And Tamar Johnson of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and there he is. I like these cards; they're very nice.
Yeah, those
And
are
I and I got an autograph one in the batch, which is kind of cool.
well, JJ. It's been fun. Uh, next 2 months,
No,
you know,
yeah,
the Cubs aren't out of it yet,
no,
and being they're a better team today than they were yesterday. Uh, Paredes makes them a better team. Kind of solidifies the defense around the horn. So maybe they're gonna. I mean, they were losing 5-0 last I checked, so maybe not. Who knows? But I think the Cardinals bettered themselves, and it's going to be fun to see how the rest of the season goes.
I'm glad to have Fam back. 6 playoff spots. Everybody but the Rockies and the White Sox have a shot. So hang on, everybody.
All right. Well, everybody, we will see you next week.
Take care.